Garamaigat Can Corla, and just to put on the record, I will be opposing this legislation and I'll be supporting the amendment that's before us, because essentially this legislation is asking us as a Dáil to give the Minister and Government a blank cheque, and I don't think we should give them that blank cheque for one day longer than is absolutely required in the proposal before us. And the reason for that is because I don't trust the Minister. I don't trust this Government to bring forward regulations in a fair manner, in a manner that will build upon community support. One of the phenomenal outworkings of the societal response to COVID was that sense of solidarity that we saw through most part over the past 18 months. People standing up for each other, looking out for each other, supporting our frontline workers and understanding and appreciating the sacrifices that others had made. And it was that sense of solidarity that has permeated through the vast majority of people in our society. And despite the demonisation that at different points during the pandemic that they received, young people were at the forefront of that. Young people and the solidarity that we've seen from our young people throughout this pandemic, I have to say and put on the record of this Dáil, it's been phenomenal. When you consider what they've sacrificed in terms of school closures, in terms of missing out on college life, missing out on social life at a really important times in their lives, in terms of employment and future employment prospects, in terms of travel, in terms of love, in terms of all those things that are part of those crucial formative years that were sacrificed. And in many instances, I have to say, the mental health cost of all of that. These were real sacrifices, Minister, made by our young people. They're not the same sacrifices, and they're not potentially as impactful, of course, as those who lost loved ones or those who went through serious physical illnesses, but they were sacrifices nonetheless. And we should commend the young people of Ireland for making them, and they did it. They did it for their grannies, they did it for their parents, they did it for their elderly neighbours, they did it for the vulnerable in our communities. And my biggest fear now is that you are now bringing forward legislation that just trashes all of that sacrifice and effort that our young people made, spitting in the face of our young people by bringing forward a bill such as this. Those who suffered so much through mental health anguish, and I have to say this, I've seen it in my own family, in my own community, in my own town and constituency. It was young people, I think, that were most affected mentally as a result of all that has gone on over the past year. And now you're saying that those people are to be discriminated against. I want to see hospitality open for all. I want to see it happening in a safe manner, and I want to ensure that when we open a service, whatever that service may be, that it stays open. So on all of those rhetorical points, I'm at one, I think, with everybody in this House. But what if we have to, at some stage, bring forward new proposals for further restrictions? What if there's an Echo or a Falcon variant or whatever the next names is, and what if there's a variant that beats the vaccine? What if we have to go back and ask people to make sacrifices again? How can we possibly look young people in the eye and ask them to do that all over again when we have decided to bring forward legislation that discriminates against them after they've done it once before? We can't, Minister, and that's why I'm so angry about this piece of legislation. That's why I think that so many people are so frustrated. They cannot believe that a government has the audacity to do to them when they have no choice. They will, and most of them will, receive the vaccine when it's available to them, but it's not available to most of them right now. So they're expected to work in the bars, work in the restaurants, wait on those people who were vaccinated, but not able to enjoy those same services themselves. I just think that's plain and utterly wrong. Let's recall last year, Can Corla, we all recall it, during the last summer recess, the infamous Golfgate. Do you remember the anger that arose among the public for that? And it wasn't because a group of people met in a hotel and had a meal and had a pile of pints. It's because most people weren't allowed to do that and they abided by the rules. What really angered people was the sense that there's one rule for some and another rule for others. Well, essentially what this government are doing tonight is bringing forward legislation that legalises one rule for some and another for everybody else. And that's not good enough. And my fear, as I say, Minister, is that what you're doing is undermining that sense of solidarity that we should all be so proud of among our young and old across our society. And that's what you will be responsible for. I hope you recognise that. I hope you realise what you're doing with this piece of legislation, because you're serving precisely nobody well with this piece of legislation. And I will proudly hit the kneel button and knock. Gora Maigad Arish Concorda.